Mr. Rocks meets Tupac story with your host, Mr. Rock. I hope everyone's well out there on 104 the YouTube. Big shout out to Rob himself, Mickey Minx, and Star, Miss Kiwi Gaming, King of Randoms, and everyone else. Rufus the Red as well. My Fox Kid brother, Hail Gorganis, my Broganis, and everyone else. Like I said, I hope everyone's doing well out there. Um, but yeah, just trying to get chat to pop up on my screen, just in case. Okay, there we go. So now I don't miss chat. But yes, guys, back in the 90s, Mr. Rock met Tupac. Um, and that's a story that I'm going to literally be telling just in a second. Um, so just a little heads up, this I'm not going to use any racial slurs, but this will involve racism. My dad was racist, and there was a lot of words said. Um, so yeah. So let me take you back to the 90s in a way, Mr. Rock. So this either happened in 93, 94, 96. I believe it was 94. It could have been a little later in 96. It did not happen in 95 because, well, 95 was a really bad year, and I'm not getting into that. So it was either of those years. It happened in the city of Toronto. So yeah. So the story goes like this. Um, Me and my dad, it was the first time that I went on tour with my dad, pretty much. Either first or second time I went on tour with my dad in the 90s. Um, my dad literally was driving this Ford Green Galaxy car in a way. He had loaded up his drum set and everything else. So my dad literally was just like done. He had done his freaking set, so he was about to load up his car. Tells me to stand by the car, literally freaking watch the car, pretty much. At this time, I'm just a kid. Okay, so I was about maybe not more than 4 or 5, maybe 6 years old at the time, tops. So I'm standing there and everything else watching the car. There's a nightclub literally right across the street and everything else. And I see like this African American male. Here's note to self: I did not know about rap at the time. Didn't really know any really too many African American people, except for people I see on TV. This was probably the first time I really met someone and someone that famous. So yeah, this guy. This African American male literally comes out of the club and everything else, and gets into his limo. I could sort of see it. So so the limo literally freaking starts driving in a way, just a little, and then it turns around. It turns around, and then technically, the pulls up right beside me. And I still remember this like it was yesterday. So it pulls up right beside me. This African American male literally comes out. At this point, I did not even know who Tupac was. No idea. So he pulls up right beside me, and he literally comes up and says, "Why are you by yourself, kid?" And I'm literally going, I'm waiting for my dad, waiting for my dad. Like I couldn't really talk very well, so I'm literally like a toddler. So it might not sound like that. Um, but yeah. And he literally said, "Well, I'm gonna wait here with you." So, and everything else. Hey, Jay Banks, hope all is well. But yeah, so yeah, I'm sitting there waiting with waiting for my dad to come out. My dad was playing at the frickin' I can't remember exact location, but I remember it was like a big time concert, something like that. Um, I was backstage and everything. So yeah, I'm sitting there waiting. About 20, 30 minutes later, my dad comes out. Okay, now my dad was irate. My dad did not like African American people at all. I did not know this until then. So he comes out. He's like, "Get your frickin' hands off my son, you effing," and then you can figure out the rest. You know, but at the end of the day, it was literally like the first time I literally heard anything that was literally racist that was coming out of my dad's mouth at the time, and I felt so embarrassed and everything deep down inside because I did not know what was going on. But I did feel embarrassed because even this guy was literally going, I didn't do anything. I'm sitting here with your son. Um, that's when literally my dad gets into the car and he's literally honking the damn horn. Get in the car, you SOB and everything else. And he's saying this to me. Okay, my dad's saying this to me, and I'm just a little kid at the time. But yeah, um, so then Tupac literally gives me a hug and says, you know, there's always going to be people like this in this world, but until he changes, the world's never going to frickin' change, is what he told me. And I still remember that. Remember this to this day, in a way. I still remember this. And no, like he did say his name, but I did not know who Tupac was. You can't, and everything else. You have to remember this. I did not know who he was until years later. When I freaking seen a T-shirt, a Tupac T-shirt, a special shout out to Randall because Randall was the guy that literally helped me find out who Tupac was. Randall was a black African American male that literally moved into our neighborhood, and he was wearing this Tupac T-shirt and everything else. And my dad didn't like him. Just give you a heads up, my dad did not like him at all. Well, he married his first cousin, so there's that. But um, but yeah, he was wearing a T-shirt, and I said, "Hey, I met that guy." Uh, and he literally said, "You met Tupac?" And at this time, I didn't know who he was. And then my dad comes out and says, "Yeah, I remember that." If and sure enough, that's when I literally started listening to rap. After that, that's when I started listening. Because at the time, I did not know what rap was or anything. So that's when I started listening, because secretly, and yeah, like rap was forbidden in my household. It was. So the way how I used to listen to it, I used to literally go to friends' places and listen to it. I would literally try to sneak around, hide a rap CD inside, literally maybe a rock and roll CD, you know. But yeah, and that was the way how life was. My dad always thought rap was crap, and that's the way how it was. You know, he was a rocker through and through. You know, and but yeah, um, more details about the story and everything else about Tupac. Um, like I said, he, he was standing there beside me. 20, 30 minutes is gone. He was telling me sort of his life story in a way, how his family didn't treat him well, so technically he doesn't want to see other kids be treated that way and everything else. I really literally listened to him in a way, and a lot of his words literally touched me even to this day, and that's the reason why I wanted to sort of share this story because it is a good story. Um, freaking fly went right almost right into my eye. But yeah, there's a fly around here. But yeah, I wanted to share this story. Um, if you got any questions about it, in a way, um, you can. But yeah, I don't really want to go into more detail about what happened between that. Like, in a way. Like, there was a lot of racial slurs. So my dad was a heavy racist, so pretty much you can imagine my dad literally just going ape shit crazy with slurs at the time. So I remember getting back into the car about literally 5 minutes later after Tupac gave me the hug and everything else. Because I didn't want to get in the car. I was scared. I was scared to go get back in. And my dad gets out of the car and literally says, either you get back in the car or I'm knocking this guy out. That's what he said. I'm knocking him out and everything else. Tupac gets into his limo at the time. He gets into his limo and literally drives off in a way. But that's not the end of it. That's not the end of it. My dad literally tries to back up his freaking car after he's literally loads and tries to hit Tupac's limo. He tries to hit it. He of course, the limo literally, but it was literally about maybe that close from my dad hitting the back of the limo. But on the car ride back, all I can remember is that my dad literally keep telling me, "Do not hang out with people like that. People like that should not exist." And everything else. And I just literally sat in the car, and I remember just going, what is this? What I just seen? And sorry for literally doing that. I just recently woke up in a way, so I just put my hand over my head. Might hit my eye, but yeah, I just recently woke up. But yeah, I just remember that part. Um, but yeah, and that is sort of my Tupac story. Um, so I know that technically details cannot be literally mentioned completely. Like, I'm not going to remember the exact year. It happened literally like 30 years ago, almost. So I'm not going to remember exact locations or anything. I just remember it was in Toronto. My dad was playing a concert. He came out of a nightclub, Tupac, and literally, uh, limo pulled up beside me. Right, literally came out, turned around, pulled up beside me, and like I said, you know. But yeah, um, but with that being said, I want to thank AJ Banks for coming out and everyone else that watches this video. Um, you know, I don't really have any more details because that was pretty much the end of the story. You know, um, this week's video is live stream is going to be goats. I mean, this week, yeah, this live stream next this week is Goat Simulator free, and also um, September 12th is my 17-year anniversary of songwriting, so I will be doing a video on that as well. Um, so yeah, stay tuned for that. With that being said, I will catch you guys on the next one. Later, everyone.